Well, that sucks. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to On the Fly. Terry made a video. I did not think I'd be shooting this today, next year, or even a few years to come. As obviously, David Krejci has left the Boston Bruins to pursue a career in the Czech Republic, his hometown. So this is a little bit of a different video. Obviously, he was a big part of the Boston Bruins, and I think because of that, he deserves that respect. Obviously, he was a big part of the team. The 2011 Cup run, and I think just overall, he really was a player that the Bruins counted upon night in, night out, and he was always there to provide. Obviously, including the Cup run in 2019, he was always there. He was always a player to be looking upon, especially when playoff Krejci came alive. No one was able to stop him. So I think he really did have a great career, and I wish him all the best in the Czech Republic. Moving on to the Boston Bruins, obviously they did have a big loss today, losing their second center behind Bergeron, and obviously their assistant captain. So overall, this is going to be a big video, and I think in general, this really sucks because obviously I am a Bruins fan, and I do like Krejci. I always like seeing him play, and I was waiting for him just to break out, have his breakout year. Of course, it didn't really come that often, although last year was really the starter, and I was really hoping we'd see him back with Hall and Smith. But in general, I think it really was a sort of a good move on his part, obviously going back to his hometown to be with his family. So I do wish him all the best in the Czech Republic. But on to the Boston Bruins of next year. We'll take a look at the lines. Obviously, the depth chart is here. So on center, or on the left wing rather, they do have Marchand, Hall, Foligno, DeBrusk, Frederick, and Bleed. Obviously, Foligno was a pickup. I think he will be sort of that versatile player that will play everywhere. As I mentioned in my free agent video covering day one of free agent frenzy, you can find that. Link will be in the bio. And then for the right wingers, Pastrnak, Smith, Wagner, and Kuhlman. And then for the centers, obviously Bergeron, Coyle, Haula, Nosek. Haula and Nosek, of course, were free agents. And then Curtis Lazar, obviously losing David Krejci. That second line spot will need to be filled. Moving on to the defense, you got the left D of Grzelcyk, and then Forbort was, of course, his free agent signing. Riley got re-signed in free agency this year, coming on, of course, the busy free agent frenzy. But then you also have Clifton, and Zaboral. All these guys are lefties, so the right D spot does need a little bit of work, but I will talk about how that kind of will be addressed, well, at least how I think that will end up being addressed. And then moving on is the right D of McAvoy and Carlo. Obviously, there's only two on the list right now. There are some others in the minors that I think could potentially fight for that spot. But in general, I think it is going to have to go to one of those lefty, and they'll have to play their offside. Moving on to the goalies, obviously, free agent pickup of Allmark, and then Swayman. And then finally, Callum Booth will be kind of their third goalie. I would like to see them re-sign Rask, and I hope they can do so. But in the end, this is what they have right now, and I don't see them going too far. I would like to see them re-sign Rask 1 year base. I don't see him going anywhere else. So I'd like to see him on a shorter contract, a 1 year, maybe a $1 million or a 1.5. Just try and get him that last cup before he retires. Obviously, he's starting to get to the end of his career. Injuries are starting to come for him. He's starting to be plagued by them. So I think in general, he does definitely have to try and figure that out. And I think in the end, that's kind of what he'll end up being, what he will end up doing. Okay, so now that we've gone through the depth chart, I think we'll start going through the lines. So with the obvious line, the perfection line, I don't see anything changing here. I don't think the news today will affect too much on that front. And then obviously Pastrnak. So this line will most likely stay. I'd be very surprised if they decide to move them. Obviously, this is probably their best line and one of the best lines in hockey between them and obviously the Colorado line. So I think this line will stay. I'd be surprised if they end up changing it, although they might move Pastrnak, like they're trying to figure out where to stick Hall. And I think Pastrnak will be staying on the top line this time. Same with Smith. I did like, however, when they put Bergeron, Marchand, and Smith together, and then Pastrnak, Hall, and Krejci. But I think the perfection line will be here to stay, and because of that, that'll be my first line. Moving on down the list, I think next line will be pretty simple with Hall, Coyle. I think this is why they ended up signing Coyle to a big deal. Obviously, $5 million is never a small contract. But I think they mainly did this just to try and get him that second line minutes. I had a feeling that they did end up knowing that Krejci was looking towards to go back home. So I think with that, they were kind of suspecting that was going to happen. And because of that, I think that's why they did what they did. Moving on down the list to the third line, I think it'll be something along the lines of Holla. Holla in the center with Foligno on the right. And then for the left wing, I could see basically two players being there. I think between DeBrusk and Frederic, mainly because I have a feeling that with DeBrusk, I have a feeling he will be flipped, traded out to a team such as like Kraken or someone trying to get a good right defenseman. Obviously, they are sort of lacking in that category right now. As you can see, there's only two guys. And Clifton will kind of have to fill that void as he does kind of play both sides, kind of that versatile role. But in general, I think Hall of Foligno. I'm going to put Frederic for now, but I could very well see DeBrusk playing here if he's not traded. I think between Frederic and DeBrusk, that'll be kind of be who takes that third line left winger role. But in general, I think it'll be between the two of them. Then finally, I think the last line will be a mix-up of Lazar. You got Lazar, Wagner, and the recently acquired Tomas Nosek. So I think with that kind of fills in those roles. Obviously, losing Krejci was a big loss. I also think that they would have ended up using the center would have slid down. So Coyle would have played third line, Krejci would have been second line, and then Holla might have been the left winger instead of Frederic, and then Frederic would have moved down, potentially replacing Wagner, or maybe Lazar, and then Lazar moves to the right wing, replacing Wagner. So I would have liked to have seen that kind of unfold. But of course, with the recent departure of David Krejci, I think these will be the lines for them. I wouldn't be surprised, as I said, to see DeBrusk go. And if he doesn't, I do have a feeling that it will be something of the same, where basically DeBrusk replaces Frederic, Frederic replaces Lazar, and then Lazar replaces Wagner, and then Wagner gets the boot somehow. He might also be another kind of that 13th forward, but in general, I do have a feeling that's kind of what will end up happening. And then moving on to the defense pairing, so I think Grzelcyk and McAvoy for the first pairing. I mean, not much surprise here. I think, without a doubt, these are kind of the two guys that I'd like to see together. They are both pretty good pairings, and I think because of that, they will be together for this. Moving on down the list, so right now I'm between Forbort and Riley for the second pairing. I'm going to go with Riley, mainly because I think it benefits Carlo more, but I could also very well see Forbort getting the role there. I think when you sign a player to a $3 million deal, as obviously both Riley and Forbort did, I think it'll be a battle for that second line spot. But in general, Boston is pretty loaded on the left side, so I think in the end it will be a good pickup for them. And then finally, I am going to throw Forbort and then Clifton for the final spot. Although I will add a little star here, is obviously I do have a feeling that the trade for Jake DeBrusk will include a right defenseman coming back. And I think that they will end up needing to sign one, as obviously Clifton isn't really the sixth defenseman that they will be looking for. So obviously they are a rebuilding team, a contending team rather. So that Clifton doesn't make a lot of sense to be that top line guy. And then finally for the goalies, as I said, I think it'll be Ullmark, Swayman. Obviously these are two guys that are just chomping at the bit to play in Boston. Obviously Ullmark came from Buffalo, so he didn't have the greatest time in terms of their defense, and obviously their team wasn't that great. And then as for Swayman, obviously he was last year. He started to take over the role from Rask, and then he came back from his injury to kicking him out. So I think in the end, obviously these are the two goalies that will be the players. I could also definitely see Rask coming back after his injury. And if I did see that, I think it'd be between, I don't know if Swayman would become the third goalie, or Ullmark would kind of be the third goalie, or Rask probably would end up being the third goalie. But it's never bad to have a whole bunch of goalies, as you've seen in the playoffs. When guys start to get hurt, it's never a good thing. So overall, it's a team that definitely still has a shot to win. I do want to see that DeBrusk trade, because obviously he will be a big asset, and I think they could definitely get some sort of value out of him, especially to a team that kind of is looking for that younger side, like a team like Seattle. But overall, I think with that, I think this will be Boston's line combinations. Obviously, Krejci is a huge loss for the Bruins. He was a big part of their team. And of course, with that, I'd also like to see in terms of the captaincy, Bergeron will still be the captain, Marchand will be the assistant, but it does free up that last assistant spot, which I think will either go to Coyle or it will go to McAvoy. I'd like to see it go to McAvoy personally, as I think he is going to become the next leader on the team. So with that, I would like to see that, although Pastrnak would also be just as worthy as a candidate. But in general, I think it would be between those two guys. I could also see a Coyle for sure, and a Foligno is a maybe for me, although I do want to see Foligno be in action before, because obviously he does bring that leadership. He's played around quite a bit. He used to be the captain in Columbus. So in general, it's a team that does have the potential to win a Stanley Cup this year. I still think that they have a pretty solid shot, despite losing Krejci. But I think they do have to trade DeBrusk for a right defenseman, and if they can do that, I think they will be your 2021-2022 Stanley Cup champions. If you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. If you liked it, drop a like. If you liked it, consider subscribing. Tell all your friends about it. Leave a comment down below your thoughts on Krejci retiring. Until next time, see ya.